Hello, my noble band of outlaws. Outlaw Samurai coming at you live with a video. First video on the new filming equipment, my new Ona tablet. Previous video will be uploaded before this one. Well, I am really loving how fluid this camera is. It really picks up all the individual movements really well. Before there was like a lot of blurry after images. But I rambled enough. If you may or may not have noticed from the topic of said video, killing a cyclops. We've all seen cyclopses, especially if you watch anything with Greek mythology, Odysseus and Polyphemus. Of course, in the Greek myth, Odysseus, the Odyssey, after Odysseus blinded Polyphemus, he then took up blacksmithing to appease the gods, and that's a whole separate subject for a separate video. Cyclopses in general, in manga, anime, pop culture, are depicted as these huge, lummoxing beasts with one big-ass eye in the center of their forehead. And the favorite weapons are clubs and throwing giant boulders. Now, just like my similar, I guess, how to slay videos, I should title them. I should really go back and retitle that playlist when I figure out how. The point of the matter is, how do you slay a cyclops? They're usually 100 feet tall or so, and they can uproot whole redwood trees with a pinch of their fingers. Well, the simplest explanation, if you saw my how to slay or how to kill an ogre video, which I really did a lot of rambling in that one, sorry about that, is aim low. And what I mean by that is, I apologize for the weaving. It's a nervous habit that is extremely hard for me to break. But I can't stay stationary too long, and my legs start to itch like crazy. I guess because of stagnant blood or whatever. But aside from that, let's say that this cyclops that we are slaying is around 100 feet tall, extremely muscular, and well built. How would we go about slaying it? There are a few different options. But let's say you are a lone adventurer. You go to your guild hall, you accept a quest, slay a cyclops. And you're wondering, slaying a cyclops, what weapons and armaments would be best suited for it? Well, cyclops, because of they only having one eye, would lack depth perception. But if you're going to go with your armaments, in my opinion, full plate, always full plate, chainmail underneath, gambeson. Go loaded for bear, basically. If you think that gambeson isn't going to be enough, add chainmail. If you think that's going to be enough, add plate. So full plate, chainmail, gambeson. But what color would you point? That's a very good question. The color of the armor will help disguise you in a sense. Because cyclops, although they lack depth perception, they can still see, and they can still see in color, presumably. So, while they may not be the best at throwing things, they are good at seeing. I'd assume because of the size of their eye that they have extremely good night vision because of the fact that they have so many rods absorbing light in the back of their eyes. But let's say for good representation that this cyclops needs very minimum light to see in his cave. And you go in wearing bright, shiny, mirror-polished armor, like you're going to be a gallant knight and slay a dragon. Yeah, that may make you look impressive and make you look tough, but that cyclops is going to see the mirror polish instantly and you're dead. So, what color of armor would I suggest? Black armor, a dark gray, or navy blue. The reason I suggest navy blue is because a navy blue blends in better with the night sky. This has to do with ninja and the fact that real ninjas wear blue. Not black. That is Hollywood. Black ninjas as in their outfit, not black ninjas as in like black people being ninjas. That's a completely different kettle of fish, but ninjas did not wear black. They wore navy blue or tiger striped navy blue and black stripes. So a navy blue armor, a dark gray armor, or a black armor would be best suited, and not shiny. Again, this isn't a polished navy blue, a polished gray, or a polished black, like jet black. You want coal, a matte black, a matte navy blue, a matte gray. Very plain. One that does not reflect light. Now, I will admit that full plate armor is loud. Moving around in it, you're going to clank, you're going to cling. So maybe if you're skilled enough, you won't need the full plate, but I would wear the full plate because if the Cyclops is awake and you're moving around, you can move in full plate armor stealthily, but it's very difficult. But if you're moving around and it's clanking, the Cyclops, unless he sees you specifically, he's probably just going to think it's some kind of mouse. It's a few mice in his cave, and he's not going to pay any attention to it. Next, this also goes to your sword. If you're going to use a sword to slay a Cyclops, and I'm going to get to that in a minute, not shiny. You see this? See how much light my blade reflects? Yeah, no shiny. Cover the blade in paint, dull it. Hell, even if it's a completely rusted out piece of junk, as long as it can break the skin, use it. But with that in mind, nothing shiny, because this is my assumption, Cyclops have extremely good vision. Just not depth of vision where they can hit long-range targets. Now we get to the weapon of choice. My personal weapon would be sword, but that's just me. Now, I know there are a lot of other weapons, like the halberds, the spears, stuff like that. But generally, more times than not, an adventurer is going to have a sword more times than a spear in most D&D settings and other adventure games. From my personal experience, they always have swords. Swords are regal, they're cool, and like my sword has lightning and can shoot lightning dragons and such and so. Freaking Chidori from Naruto. But the reason I would choose a sword is, well, basically, swords are a lot easier to move around with than a spear. If you can imagine, we'll pretend my practice Nodachi is a spear. Now, this would be a battle spear where you would fight, not like a pike or anything, but if you're moving around with this thing, then if you're not paying attention, you could bump the rocks, you could make weird noises that the Cyclops might register as, that's not a mouse, I need to investigate this. With a sword, on the other hand, while it's sheathed, you're moving around a lot more stealthily. You can swing the sword over your neck. You could even, if your blade, I have made a video showing this. Just a minute. Now, as you can see, I rigged my sword up to hold on my back. And as I was saying, you can put the sword on your back quite easily. And if the blade is short enough, in this instance, this is a katana, so it's not a very long blade. If the blade is short enough, as I've discussed in my other video, swords on your back, the Metatron even proved this himself as well, that if the blade is short enough, all you have to do is pull from the bottom and then unsheath from the top. The reason it didn't work like that is because I had my arm in an awkward angle, but it still is the principle. You can draw the sword from your back and you can cut the cyclops. And having it on your back means you're less likely to bump something on the floor or above your head while you're in the cave. So it does make sense to carry the sword on your back in this instance. Now, what happens with the cyclops? He goes to sleep, and you manage to infiltrate the cave, you're still alive. What is the first thing you target? Do you target the eye or do you target the leg? And the simplest answer is, in my opinion, you go for the, you cut the legs first. Now you're probably wondering, well, Outlaw Samurai, why would you cut the legs first? For the simple fact that you don't really need to have overwhelming power or strength or anything else. It's the same as I talked about in my other video about how to kill an ogre. And I think I even did a how to kill a T-Rex video. But that's a different story. So the reason I would cut the leg is because of the Achilles tendon. I don't care how OP the monster is, how ungodly levels of magic it has. It is still subject to the laws of biology and physics. And the Achilles tendon is actually what allows human beings to stand and walk and do everything. So once that tendon is cut, it doesn't even have to be a deep cut. Once those fibers have been cut, they cannot be put back together without extensive surgery. And if the Achilles tendon is cut, then the Cyclops is not going to be able to stand. He's literally going to be a 100-foot tall mass of flesh. Yeah, he's going to be writhing around in agony, but cutting the Achilles tendon, they'll also, if this is not correct, if you're a biology nerd or something like that, comment down below. But as far as I'm aware, there are major arteries near and around the Achilles tendon that if you cut those, the Achilles tendon, if you give the Cyclops enough time, it'll just bleed out and die naturally. And you won't really have to do anything. Now, you don't have to necessarily cut both Achilles tendons to incapacitate the Cyclops. Only one will really do it. The second one is more of either you're not sure the Cyclops is going to stay down, or if you want insurance, or if you're just that one prick who likes torturing your opponents to hell and back. But cutting the one Achilles tendon will do it. It will incapacitate the Cyclops, and it will cause him to fall down and die. Now, I hear you out there, and I hear you asking, Outlaw Samurai, why did you not have the eye? The eye is the major thing. The Cyclops is one big eye. The simple fact is that a Cyclops blinded is not as easily killable as a Cyclops that has been crippled. And what I mean by that is, cutting the Achilles tendon will cripple the Cyclops. He will no longer be able to run, walk, or stand for the rest of his life. And if your mission is to slay said Cyclops, then way to go. You just basically did it in one move. Now, if some Cyclops in some media have ridiculously tough skin, so you could go with the eye approach, but that would take longer. Because, yeah, you could stab the eye with a spear, or shoot it with an arrow, or slice it out with a sword. But in the long run, the Cyclops is still going to be able to fully function. Blind people in real life can fully function on their own, independent of others, because they can still walk, they can still move, they can still maneuver, they can still communicate, all that stuff. So blinding a cyclops really doesn't take away the danger. It adds to the danger, because now the cyclops is going to be enraged and he's going to be smashing everything inside, ripping and tearing through everything. Whereas if he was crippled, he's not going to be able to move very much. He's just going to basically lay there, gripping his leg for dear life, as a natural response would be. We humans, whenever we get wounds, our natural response is to cover them with our hands or to inspect them. And I would think this would carry on to the Cyclops, where he would inspect the wound. And while he's inspecting the wound, you could rush him and blind him with a swing of the sword. And yes, that would cripple and blind him. And combining the adrenaline with the fear, the anger, the rage, and the panic the Cyclops would be under, his heart rate elevated to a massive amount, his blood being thinned because of the adrenaline. Yeah, you could say that he's going to bleed out much faster. But, again, the Achilles tendon, there's a reason why Achilles in Greek mythology lost when his heel was struck. Because the Achilles tendon is the weakest point in the entire body. Cut that and the entire thing goes collapsing. Now, what you could do afterwards is, once you've slashed the Achilles tendon and the Cyclops has gripped his leg for dear life, and his head is kneeled back screaming in pain, there is one other area on the body that ensures death. And that's, you run up and you just toss your way through the jugular veins on the neck. That's right, you slash the Cyclops' throat. That's the second target you want to go for. For the simplest fact that the Cyclops, his neck would be unguarded, and if you slash the neck of any creature, I don't care how big it is, how tough it is, if you were able to get a blade into a creature's jugular veins and sever them, that thing's going to bleed out and die on the spot. There's a reason why in hunters they kill deer. They hang the deer upside down by the back legs and slit its throat. Because the jugular veins on any animal are the main veins that supply blood to the head, to the entire cranium. Slashing them would cause a river of the Cyclops' blood to pour from the neck, and it would die from blood loss. Thus, you completed your mission in a quick, efficient, and safe manner, and you get paid for your quest. But those are just my thoughts on how I would kill a Cyclops. I know there are a whole other slew of strategies you could come up with, but that was the most simplistic one on my part. Now, before I cut this video off, I know a lot of you are probably going to think, Outlaw Samurai, a katana is not going to be able to cut through a Cyclops. And you're right. A katana like the one I have here, even I will agree, probably would not have sufficient enough power to get through the Cyclops' skin and cut through the Achilles tendon. Tendons are not easy to cut. Even professional butcher knives are dull at times. Even the knives that professional butchers use are sometimes dulled by cutting through the tendons of animals, like bull tendons or deer tendons. So what I would do is I would upgrade to a bigger sword. This is my tachi Boken. Now pretend this was a solid steel blade. I would imagine a sword like this would have enough oomph, enough authority in the cut, as Skalagrim likes to say, to get through the Achilles tendon of a cyclops. But that's a matter of opinion. If you have correct form and good control, then yes, you could get through it. But I would think that a bigger blade would be necessary. Now, I know you're probably going to say, Outlaw Samurai, yes, a tachi probably could get through said cyclops, but there's my uncle in the background. But what would happen is, what would happen? Damn, I'm losing my train of thought here. Why not upgrade even further to something like a nodachi or a greatsword? And in my personal opinion, a nodachi or a greatsword such as the claymore, the Schwahandar, the Framberg, or the Christmesser. I'm at least attempting to say it halfway authentic in a German way, but my uncle's just enjoying crushing a box in the background. He's special. But aside from that, yes, I would think that a nodachi or a claymore or a framber would be the best option to slash through the Achilles tendon of a cyclops, because they have massive cutting potential, especially in the area where you're supposed to strike, which would be predominantly here towards the tip on a sword like this. Because the longer the lever, the longer the, as Skalagrim calls it, leverage you have, the more powerful your cut. So a blade like this will be able to just rip through the Achilles tendon of a cyclops. And then, if you want, you could then throw away the big ass nodachi and go for like a long sword or a tachi in this case. Go for your tachi and slash through the throat. So those are the swords I would use against the cyclops. I would use a big sword like a great sword, like or maybe even a war sword. A war sword would probably be the best of both worlds, because you'd have the ease of carry that long swords give you, but you'd also have the authority and power that a war sword, that a great sword gives you. So, I guess you could say the best sword overall then would be like a dual-handed Kritzmesser, because that thing is a blade with a Kritzmesser's profile for cutting is monstrous. So Skalagrim out there, you know you'd be taking that Albion Kritzmesser of yours against the Cyclops. We all know, anyone who watches Skalagrim's videos, we all know that's the sword he's fighting the Cyclops with. But I just thought of something. If you're watching this, Skalagrim, if you ever watch this, I challenge you to find a better way of killing a Cyclops. The specs are simple. 100-foot Cyclops, you're in a cave, minimal light, and the thing has tough skin. The range of toughness as thick as a rhino's hide. And you only can use one weapon to take it down with. What would you choose? And I'm choosing Kritzmesser, so you have to find a different weapon to use. In fact, I'm going to title this video Skalagrim's Outlaw Samurai Challenges Skalagrim. How to slay a Cyclops. So, until next time, my noble band of outlaws, Outlaw Samurai tells all y'all, be crazy rednecks, be safe and use your weapons. I'm out, peace, happy hunting, and Skalagrim, you have been challenged.